Within the original world of Breath of the Wild, one favorite aspect of mine and many other gamers out there are the inclusions of shrines, Sheikah Shrines, in which many of the 120 in total act as small dungeons, challenges, and puzzles that really breathe a breath of fresh air within the Zelda series. And the shrines that weren't challenges were often hidden behind challenges in the overworld and acted as rewards. This concept was incredibly enticing and enjoyable for me personally, as it really rewarded me exploring this vast world of Hyrule, hunting down these shrines and wondering what test will unfold once I enter them. Completing these shrines offer you physical rewards in terms of weapons, gear, and yes, the orbs of the goddess. The spirit orbs, which increase your health and stamina. And once you clear all of them, you are bestowed with the original tunic of this game, the Tunic of the Wild. This part of the original Breath of the Wild was super awesome. And now as we're going into Breath of the Wild 2, which does take place in the same Hyrule as before, one must wonder if we're gonna say goodbye to these Sheikah Shrines. I know I don't, but given what we know from the original game and what we see in the trailer of the sequel, it could be possible that the concept of the Sheikah Shrines could return and be repurposed in a very dark way. What's up guys, it's HMK once again with another Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 video. I loved Sheikah Shrines and I don't want them to go away, and I think I have an idea on how to bring them back and bring them back fresh. So for the safety of hype, I'm going to ask you to strap on in as we dive directly into the 5th dimension. Now I've had this idea in my head for quite a while now, but the recent World of Malice Breath of the Wild 2 leak, which I covered, you should check it out in the description box below, really pushed me more to get my thoughts out there. For the Sheikah Shrines to return, they would have to be repurposed in a way that would fit into Breath of the Wild 2. And I feel that a big grand way for that to be accomplished is the use of Malice Sheikah Shrines, or Yiga Shrines, or now let's just call them Malice infected shrines. Let me take you down the road. Now there really is no reason for the Sheikah Shrines or the Sheikah Towers to just disappear by the time of Breath of the Wild 2, unless they do a cop-out in which they just return to the earth, but we're going underground anyway, so yeah. But there are a bunch of things to consider. The fact is that Sheikah Shrines run off the same material and the same power, the same technology as we've seen that Guardians have been made out of, and indeed the divine beasts. And as we've seen in the original Breath of the Wild, with the advent of Calamity Ganon's return, with a burst of red rage, he was able to spread malice to many Guardians and even the divine beasts, bending them to his will, even filling the gigantic Sheikah pillars and the underground astral observatory with his red rage that is Malice. Of course, it is all common knowledge at this point, we've all seen it in the original Breath of the Wild. But with Breath of the Wild 2, the shrines would still have to be standing in the places where we left them in the original game, and with Link and Zelda finding and reawakening Calamity Ganondorf, we see that Malice gets really angry this time around, like super angry. Like way more angry than we saw in the original Breath of the Wild, and that we see that Hyrule Castle is rising out of the ground. So I'm thinking this kind of line of events. Calamity Ganondorf wakes up. He still has plenty of really angry manners to put out. He rises Hyrule Castle because I want to assume that he's under Hyrule Castle. And out of the opening, he spreads Malice once again into the world of Hyrule. And that's something that the World of Malice leak rumor plays around with. But in this case, the malice that comes from Calamity Ganondorf will find its way to the shrines. Now, I'm not saying that all 120 shrines would have to be infected by the malice, which would be dope. You know, I'm all for 120 shrines. But I feel that some of the shrines, in order to, you know, help development along and not repurpose every single thing we've seen in the past game, that some of the shrines will get destroyed by the malice, and some shrines will survive, but will be infected with Ganondorf's malice. As we've seen that the Sheikah Shrines obviously run off the same energy and technology and material that the Guardians and Divine Beasts have, I feel this wouldn't be a problem, and that these shrines would have to be re-entered and reconquered. But due to the malice that is infecting the shrines, the challenges that you once would have thought would be in the shrines would be either subtly or completely changed. For the completely changed part, I'm thinking new challenges, new dungeons, new puzzles that deal with malice, and the subtle parts will have to deal with the test of strength, which instead of a Sheikah Guardian Scout, you will have to deal with a monster or monsters born of the Malice. And when I'm talking about monsters, I'm not talking about no hanky-panky bokoblins, moblins, or lazoflos. I'm talking about things we haven't seen, such as Poes, Skulltulas, Darknuts, Stalfos, give it to me! And once you complete those infected Sheikah Shrines, or Yiga Shrines, I say Yiga Shrines because what if they just turn the eye upside down? Anyways, once you complete them, then you would have to use that new green glowing arm power to either purge or absorb the Malice and clean it in order to restore the shrine to its pristine original condition. And that using this hand in order to absorb or purge this Malice goes in line to what we were seeing it do in the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer, possibly absorbing the Malice in order to purify it and use it against Ganondorf or Ganon. My boy Nintendo Black Crisis actually touches upon this in one of his latest theories, so you should definitely check it out. Anyways, one way or another, the shrine will be restored thanks to the efforts of the hand, in whether you either purge the shrine completely of Malice or absorb the Malice in order to take it away. From those two options, you can gain power in order to power the hand, power your life, or power stamina from either converting the Malice or just simply getting a reward for cleaning up the Malice. And from doing shrines like this, Malice infected shrines, by using the new gameplay aspects that the hand could mysteriously offer us in Breath of the Wild 2, you will effectively learn how to use it for the overall scope of the game. Similar to how the original shrines pushed you to understand how the ruins work and how the physics work for Breath of the Wild 1, so that you could better understand and mess around with and experiment these two aspects. So like the original, the new Malice shrines will help guide you in a direction of how to use these new powers of the arm, while also possibly unlocking more of their capabilities. But then comes to the lore question on why weren't the shrines originally infected with the Malice to begin with in the original Breath of the Wild? Well, remember, there was a bunch of shrines still underground, and all of them, before Link decided to wake up and awaken the first tower, they were all turned off. So I want to assume that Ganon or Ganondorf, whatever the calamity, can't really infect Sheikah technology unless they are already turned on or have an applicable power source, as we've seen that a bunch of the Guardians and the Divine Beasts were already on and working by the time they got infected in the original, well, not the original, but the Great Calamity that we saw in the footnotes before 100 years in the original Breath of the Wild. But now they're on, they're active, they're clear, they're blue. And when Calamity Ganondorf reawakens and raises out of Hyrule Castle, which we all assume that he's deep underneath, he could spread his Malice towards these shrines, and then that would also act as an effective way to add an infection to certain parts of Hyrule, acting as a catalyst to spawning certain enemies in that area, to infecting the area and changing its appearance so that it's not only familiar from what we know from the original Breath of the Wild, but changed also subtly thanks to this infection, which is something that was played around with the World of Malice leak and rumor. But instead of blobs of Malice that are just covering the land, I'm talking about true infection in which we see veins and the earth is cracked and red, bright light shining out of it, to give the world of Hyrule a level of doom. And this would act as a great way to give the player an ultimatum, because if many points of Hyrule are going to be infected thanks to the area around these infected shrines, and if Breath of the Wild 2 is going to follow suit with the same way of being able to fight the boss at the very beginning if you truly want to and you're truly ready for it, then you're going to have to be hit with a choice. Either clean up Hyrule in all these infected areas thanks to these shrines by completing these shrines and then going for Calamity Ganondorf at the end, or trying to go for Calamity Ganondorf in the very beginning thinking that he is going to be the source, and once you defeat him, the Malice will go away. And each choice could have a double-edged sword to it in terms of pros and cons, in terms of power between yourself and Calamity Ganondorf, in terms of possible endings for Hyrule, maybe in terms of a time limit. Those are just ideas I have in my head of how Nintendo and the Zelda team could apply the notion of Malice-infected shrines to the overall scope of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. And I feel that there's many ways and avenues of going about this that could be incorporated extremely well for a game like this. But I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below, so leave your thoughts and theories there. And while you're at it, don't forget to like and subscribe as I post Zelda content every week. And don't forget to share the video to keep the conversation going. Big thanks once again to all my Patreon supporters for helping making this video happen. I'm going to leave my details to my Patreon in the description box below, which you can learn how you can support HMK for just $1 a month. Alright guys, until the next Zelda video, this has been HMK from the 5th Dimension, and I'll check you guys later.